Hi everyone, we thought we would make a video about a protest that we did the other night. If you haven't seen it yet, just take a look through my social media and you'll see my last videos. So basically, we did a restaurant disruption and we thought we'd just kind of talk about, what happened in the protest, but a bit of like background, kind of behind the scenes sort of stuff as to what's involved in a protest. Now, I've done lots of videos like this before that you can watch, but this protest, we did something a little bit different and we found it to be pretty good. So what did we do?
So we went to Outback Jack's. That was the main mission that night. And Tash was going to go inside and disrupt the business, and she was going to play the screams of the animals that were suffering in slaughterhouses essentially, and expose that to the people dining at a restaurant that murders so many animals I couldn't even list them, but they murder cows, chickens, fish, sheep, crocodiles, emus, so more exotic and even native animals, and kangaroos, I'm sure. Myself and another activist, Arcadius, went in undercover and we sat down as patrons. We didn't order anything, obviously, but there at that point I messaged Tash, who was parked in the nearby car park, and told her to come down. And then what happened from there?
Yeah, well, usually when we do a protest, Jack and possibly Arcadius, most of the time it is just you filming, but sometimes we will get a backup filmer or even two other backup filmers. But yeah, usually Jack and whoever else is filming will actually follow me into the store or wherever I'm disrupting. And obviously that makes it known that they're with me. So what we've found, especially in recent times, is they'll come and try and stop them from filming the protest. And obviously the protest is not going to be as effective if we can't show it on social media and spread the video footage. That is a huge aspect to the protests. So we thought, this time they'll just be undercover and they'll be, just patrons having a laugh filming me to look really undercover. And it worked brilliantly because they obviously didn't know whether they were with me or not. So they didn't touch you. So you were able to film everything. Obviously that was extremely nerve-wracking for me because of course I'm always going to be nervous before one of my protests, but usually you're with me and it's okay, I'm walking in with someone, it's all good. But this time, we all drove into the city together and Jack and Arcadius left as I'm sitting in the car in silence, kind of deep breathing, trying to, calm my nerves, having to get out of the car in my slaughterhouse costume, walking through the streets. I mean, it was only, a 2-minute walk away, but it feels like forever away when you're kind of, anxious and nervous. So I'm just waiting in the car, waiting for the message to say, all right, this is where we're located, sitting down in the restaurant, come in when you're ready. And with our microphone set up, usually we have a wireless system. So the microphone will always be attached to the phone or camera that Jack's recording from, and then the mic's attached to me here. And obviously being undercover, we didn't want them to see you having any extra microphone equipment, so I had it recording from a phone in my pocket. So it was kind of extra work for me to do, and that's so difficult to do when you're nervous. But so I had to set up the recording from my phone. And I also had another phone on me connected to the speaker, and that was playing the screams of animals being murdered as well. So there was so much in my mind, thinking, oh gosh, I'm expecting the worst here. It's always the times when we're going into restaurants where people are in the act of eating animals where it seems to get the most heated, and it certainly got a bit chaotic in there. In terms of safety, it's something that we don't really consider too much. I'm kind of I expect something to happen, but it's all a part of speaking up. People are gonna react very aggressively, and they certainly did the other night. But in terms of that, I just want Jack and whoever else, Arcadius or whoever's filming, to just keep filming. And what I told the boys was, if it's only if it's an emergency, meaning if I'm being punched out and seriously harmed, that is when you step in and try and help me. But other than that, you know, if I'm being assaulted or like I was in a headlock the other night, etc., like, do not step in. I can take it. You know, we need to capture these people reacting so aggressively to the message, and it only helps spread the message even further when people are reacting in these ways. I mean, this is what the media loves. They love reporting on the vegan that got attacked or, you know, ridiculed, blah, blah, blah. So all these people that react violently or with abuse, etc., are only helping us spread the message even further for animals. So anyway, yeah, I just said, you know, keep calm and film it even if I'm being pushed around and stuff. So yeah, in the restaurant, a customer actually got out of his seat and he came up and put me in a headlock. He was incredibly rough and angry and violent.
Trying to throw you out. Like, that is what I'm looking for. Are these people coming up just to hurt Tash? Which is very unlikely in a public setting and on camera. It would just be silly to outrightly come up and specifically just go to hurt her, which they did.
It has happened before.
Yeah, of course it does. Of course it happens. But sorry, what I was trying to say is that I'm looking for, are they going to just try and throw her out, or are they going up just to hurt Tash because they don't like Tash? It's probably a mixture of both.
Yeah.
But yeah, he got you into a headlock. He was trying to push you and pull you out towards the door, but you were resisting and you were pretty strong. And then he just pushes you in the back of the neck.
Yeah, you can see in the video footage, he literally has his hand on the back of my neck as he pushes me and shouts, "Fuck off." So he is very violent and angry. And so it's 2 days later now, and I'm starting to feel strain and soreness in my neck because it was just so forceful. Obviously, in the moment with adrenaline pumping, you don't really feel a thing. You don't even know what happened. I mean, I don't think I even knew I was in a headlock until I kind of processed it later and watched the video footage and thought, holy shit, that looks a bit rough. It didn't feel that rough in the moment. And I mean, a lot of people do ask, how do you even handle that? You know, firstly, someone assaulting you and being so violent. How do you handle people shouting in your face? How can you just keep going? But when you have so much adrenaline in that moment, and I'm obviously there for a moral reason to speak up for animals, I'm not going to react aggressively or violently back. Although in saying that, there was one guy that we'll talk about in a moment that got me so, like, he was so aggressive with me and assaulted me so many times that I actually did shout "fuck off" to him. But that's something that's very rare.
Well, he was really in your face. He was being very annoying, and he was assaulting you.
So he was very violent.
That was probably you trying to verbally defend yourself.
Yeah, exactly. But it rarely does get to that point because I'm just there as a non-violent activist. You know, I could throw a punch or whatever, kick them in the balls, but I don't want to cause harm to anyone, even if they are reacting so aggressively towards me. It's not going to do the animals any justice if I am reacting aggressively back to them. So I think it's important to just keep strong to my message, and instead of reacting aggressively back to them, I'm going to keep speaking the truth. I'm going to be there to keep speaking my message, because the moment we try and snap back at someone, as difficult as it is when you have someone shouting in your face or assaulting you, I mean, it is difficult not to snap back at them, but that's going to detract right away from the very reason that I'm there, and it's going to take away the focus from my message for animal rights. So I just need to keep going, and I just keep myself speaking up. I don't have a particular rehearsed words in my head. I know my message so well for animals, and I think, I just keep doing it, really. And so after a few minutes inside this steakhouse, the staff member eventually got me out, and they shut the doors, and you guys were still inside.
Because they didn't know that we were with you. I mean, it would be wrong of them to assume, like, you know, these are potential customers, and then now you're just assuming that they're with you. But the whole time I was shaking my head, and I was also throwing in the comment, like, get her out. So they I think they fell for that. But that was perfect, because as you said, I was able to film comfortably, and no one was trying to accompany
without
me.
Someone
because in the past,
steal the phone.
in the past, they typically go straight for the camera person, and they try to, obviously they're trying to usher out Tash, but when they see the camera person, they are either trying to block the camera, or they're just trying to pull me out. And they're trying to steal the phone as well. They're trying to get it out of my hands because they know that that's the thing that's going to be shared and exposing them. So yeah, I was in temporarily as you left, and then you ran across the street, straight over to the... Yeah, you did. I was like, oh shit, she's running, so I'm going to get out too.
I remember running.
I think because you're probably trying to dodge the car or something like that.
Yeah, well, I thought, fuck it, alright, I've been kicked out of here, and I could see it was super busy across the road at this like Chinese kind of food mall area. And I thought, well, I may as well keep the protest going. Yeah, so I went into the mall and did the same kind of protest, obviously still playing the screams and speaking out, and yeah, it was just packed there. So it was pretty surreal. I had literally like so many people just shouting at me, laughing.
At least hundreds there.
Yeah, so it was very crazy. I mean, the restaurant wasn't that busy and it was quite easy for me to give my message. Of course, there were still staff and people getting in my face, but like this was next level. And yeah, same kind of thing happened. A guy who was sitting down eating came up and straight up started shouting at me, get out. He was kind of acting as if he were a security guy, and he assaulted me. So I kind of remember, yeah, he started trying to maybe grab at my arms and he pulled my face mask down. I don't know why, but yeah, he was fucking angry.
He was definitely triggered.
Yeah. And he kept following me around wherever I went. This was happening for like a good 5 minutes, I think.
The whole time you were in there. Yeah.
Almost,
Seems
yeah.
like it.
So like at least 5 minutes of this one man following me around. The actual security guy was trying to usher me out, but you know, he wasn't being physical, he wasn't being aggressive, he was just trying to do his job. Whilst this other guy, yeah, he just kept grabbing me. I mean, I have a massive bruise here. And I actually woke up yesterday feeling like my hand was fractured because he grabbed me really aggressively by, I think, just my right arm, and he was trying to pull me out. And so I just grounded my feet and, you know, just so I wouldn't move, and he kept trying to pull, and that's when I realized, fuck, this guy has no strength at all. I think I'm actually stronger than him. He can't move me. So I just decided to jerk myself back, and like, yeah, he kind of fell forward, and then I jerked myself back again and he had to let go. So, you know, but he was still persistent, which is quite funny. Like, you know, he couldn't do anything, but he still kept following me around. And then he tried to steal my speaker from me as well, and I just kept a very firm grip on it and he wasn't able to get it. So yeah, it was kind of just like doing 2 hectic protests within a matter of 15 minutes, really.
Yeah, about that.
Obviously, this time it kind of was more known that you guys were filming me, but because it was like a food mall, it's not like there was a staff member there to kind of do it. It was just like the one security guy who was just obviously trying to get me out.
And everyone's filming, really. I'm just following around, so...
Yeah. So yeah, that was a pretty good protest, and obviously like trying that way of things might be better for the future of protesting, in terms of avoiding people attacking you and, you know, stealing the phones and ruining the footage of the protests. So yeah, it's good to have, you know, undercover people when we're doing our activism.
Yeah.
But yeah, other than that...
Might need some self-defense training for the next few times.
Yeah, possibly. But yeah, I'm very bruised, and I definitely will be putting in police statements to get these people charged for assault. In the past, it's always been like the business owners that have assaulted me and been very aggressive and violent, and it was clear their motives were to just harm me and push me around, not to, you know, remove me from the business, and they weren't charged for assault. So it's disgusting. But now that customers have actually assaulted me, it will be interesting to see if the police actually act on this and charge them. But it's not okay to touch someone if
No.
if you don't agree with their beliefs, and people have the right to protest. So
Yeah, and it's not like we don't expect these kinds of things to happen. We know that there are people out there that get so triggered that they want to come up and physically remove you or abuse you. But at the end of the day, this is kind of the stuff that we want to expose. We want to show that there are people out there that get so triggered that this is how they react. It says a lot about their cognitive dissonance, and it really does show that they are trying to hide something there, and they don't want to face the truth, the reality of what they're paying for.
yeah, they're like trying to protect and defend their ego and their beliefs, so they attack the messenger rather than, listening to the message. And there's no doubt that there are so many people listening to the message. That's why disruptive activism is, in my belief, one of the most powerful forms of activism, if not the most powerful, because it is planting a message in the minds of sometimes millions of people because of the media attraction and public dialogue that it generates. But obviously, in social change, a majority will react with aggression, abuse, sometimes just laughter and ridicule, and even coming to the fact that they will happily assault someone in public right in front of cameras. I mean, I think I said to that man, "Are you proud to assault a woman?" And I think he said something like, "Yeah, I don't really care," or something along the lines of that. Like, he did not care because he was in such a state of mind of being so triggered and trying to defend his ego, and obviously being angry that someone was disturbing his dinner, saying things like, "We have the right to eat in peace." But they're so blinded because I'm literally there playing the screams of their food being murdered. How can you eat in peace when there's someone's murdered body on your plate? So people, that's why we're there, because people should not have the right to murder someone else to eat their bodies or their secretions or wear their skin, etc. And yeah, it's just a part of social change. So we definitely expect this sort of behavior. We're used to it now. So it's just something that's going to continue to happen. I mean, yeah, sometimes it obviously gets concerning when it seems to be, more and more people becoming really physically aggressive. Like, for example, the farmer at the Royal Show last year. And yeah, more and more people are getting aggressive. But I think that's showing a shift in the stage of social change. And that's a good thing. That's showing that we're getting one step closer to animal rights and animal liberation. Obviously, there's a very far way to go, but we are getting significantly closer. And there's 3 stages of change. First, they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, and then you win. So there's obviously still people kind of laughing at the message, having a joke about it, but there is a massive fighting stage happening now where activists are facing this kind of resistance and aggression.
Yeah.
So
it's a good sign at the end of the day. We are reaching the right audience.
Exactly.
The message is hitting the right ears.
This sort of protest is very controversial, and I mean, I've only just posted one of the videos last night and the other one 2 nights ago, and the traction online and the media articles is very significant already. And obviously most of the comments are very negative, saying, "Well, you're not going to change my mind because of this. I'm actually going to eat more animals because of you." As an outsider, people see this as a negative thing. They think, well, that protest actually isn't doing any good change. Look how much negativity it's generating. Look how many people are laughing at her and abusing her. And look how extreme she is. She's literally shouting at people and playing the screams at animals. That's too extreme. No one's going to change, etc. But these people are just saying that from what they're seeing without any actual evidence. I mean, behind all of that, there are literally thousands, if not more, of people who are actually listening to the message and changing. And I have evidence to show that my extreme activism has changed the minds of thousands of people and lots of even families to go vegan. I once too questioned the effectiveness of disruptive activism before I got involved in it. Actually, it was coincidentally a protest at the very Outback Jacks that I did my protest at. This was one of the first kind of disruptive animal rights protests in Perth, I mean, from what I know, like pretty much ever before. And this was in 2018, I think. So this was when I was just kind of at the beginning stages as an activist who did Anonymous for the Voiceless and the Save movement stuff. And I didn't go to this Outback Jacks protest. It was like a group protest, very disruptive. And I remember actually being thankful that I didn't go to it because it generated so much negativity. It got a huge amount of media attention, which generates all this traction and negativity. And to me, I thought, oh, I don't know about that. Like, that just seems like a bad thing for animal rights. But I'm so glad that I kept open-minded. I didn't accuse those activists of doing the wrong thing. I just personally felt uncomfortable seeing it and questioned it.
What about it made you think that in time, what changed your mind to think that this actually is effective?
It just took a little bit more kind of education, but that was more through my own experiences of remaining open-minded and actually getting involved in disruptive activism myself, rather than saying, oh, I'm not going to do that because I think it's wrong. I just still kept open-minded and thought, well, I may as well try this out. And that's when I realized the key to social change is generating all this traction, which comes with a lot of negativity. That shows that the message is getting to the right people.
Yeah.
And as we just explained before, we want people to be reacting in this way because they're trying to defend themselves, because they're triggered by the message. And then eventually, one day down the track, they'll change. Some people change immediately. Some people will almost go in the opposite direction, but that message is stuck in their mind, and they might go vegan a year later. They might go vegan 3 years later. It's every little seed that's planted in all forms of activism, but disruptive activism is really what gets the public dialogue going and generates so much change.
Yeah, whether it be the individual or society as a whole, you can't create change unless you disrupt the current behavior. That disruption is mostly going to be educational, but if it gets to the point where the education or just kind of exposing the truth of them isn't working, sometimes you have to go in and actually disrupt them in the midst of the act, when they're actually eating that meal. Sometimes that may be the only time where they see the food on their plate and they hear the screams and they're like, wow, I'm actually making the connection now.
Exactly. And I did even have one man that came up to me who was genuinely interested in understanding what the sounds were coming from the speaker, which led to a conversation about animal rights and talking about these are animals being murdered. And he agreed with everything I said. And I'm pretty sure he said that he murders animals himself to try and be more sustainable and humanely murder them. And then I said, well, you don't need to be doing that. And he fully agreed with me. So there were already people in that moment that were definitely, open to changing. And
a lot of it is just planting seeds. We know that when we go in there in that evening, we're going to be causing a lot of discomfort. And sometimes in that moment, people are going to close off. In that moment, they're going to be like, oh, I don't want to listen, or they're going to laugh just to make themselves feel more better about their choices in that moment. However, it's more about in the long term, or even in the short or medium term, where they start to think, they might be by themselves at this point, and then they can kind of comfortably start to take in, what was it that actually went on that night? What was she trying to expose to us? And then each time that person now makes a meal that has animals in it, they might start to think, oh, I actually remember those screams now. Yes, I laughed that night, but now I'm kind of thinking, well, maybe this isn't right. So it's about planting those seeds, and they will sprout at any given moment. We can't tell when, but we definitely know that the seed has been planted.
Exactly. And the main purpose of the protest is to not even change people or reach people that are there present on that night. Like, that is insignificant compared to the reach the message will get. Because it's so controversial and so extreme, it generates media attention, which can reach people all across the world and see the video of the protest where they're sitting at home and they might, see what's going on. This woman's dressed as a slaughterhouse worker. Oh my gosh, what are those sounds? And then they have their moment to listen to what I'm saying. And generates so much curiosity. They'll hear me say, watch Dominion on YouTube. Next minute, they're on Dominion watching The Truth. And then I'm getting a message from them saying I'm going vegan because of you. So it's mostly about the after effect of the protest rather than in the moment.
Of course.
Of course, in the moment, it's very powerful, as you said.
Yeah.
But it's going to make way more change, afterwards because of that media attention.
And I think the reason I do mention why it is still effective for those people there is because there are other people like you out there, potential activists, that might not have the same reach as Tash. I'm sure Tash will share whatever you post, but sometimes you might not have that reach, and then you'll think, oh, what's the point of me going out and doing it? And it's for those exact reasons that I said.
Definitely.
That you might be causing discomfort that evening. You might be putting those people off in that moment and closing off, but in that long term, that seed may sprout.
Exactly. They'll never forget that moment, and there's no way that they're not going to talk about it with other people. It will create so much dialogue, and yeah, that's so important. But even people who don't want to be doing disruptive activism, I said this yesterday at my speech at the National Animal Rights Day event, all forms of activism combine together and create so much change. Someone might read an article about my activism, a seed is planted in their mind, but they don't make any change, they don't think much of it, and then they stumble across an outreach activist and have a civil discussion about animal rights. And that in combination together, not just seeing one thing isolated by itself, could make a huge impact. Actually, I met a vegetarian yesterday that she said she went from vegetarian to veganism because of my work, but as well as listening to Joaquin Phoenix's speech. It was the combination of hearing a disruptive activist speak about the dairy and egg industries, as well as a celebrity giving a speech about it, that in combination made her change. So every little bit comes in together and can make such an enormous impact. So we're not here to say, oh, everyone should be a disruptive activist, you need to be doing this. We're here to say, we believe you have a moral obligation to be speaking up if you know this truth about animals, if you're vegan. And you can do it in so many variety of ways. You can be doing stickering in a supermarket or out in the public. You can join Anonymous for the Voiceless. You can join the Save movement and video animals outside slaughterhouses. It's all playing an essential role into this change.
Yeah.
So
essentially the core of it is to create the social dialogue, because if activists weren't out there exposing this truth and educating people, we might not be having any discussion whatsoever. So it might be negative discussion about, these activists and we don't agree with them and we don't like them. But that's better than nothing, because that's what creates that dialogue, which then leads to the next question. And this is what we want, is why were they doing that? What are they exposing? The moment someone asks that question, that's the point of it. We want people to start questioning, why are they doing it? What are those screams? And make that connection. And then to get to the main conclusion that it's not necessary. We don't need to be doing it at all. Yeah,
exactly. So I think that's kind of covered a bit of, the behind the scenes of our protesting and what we've found to be personally effective for the type of stuff that we do, and a bit more understanding about, the importance of disruptive activism and all forms of non-violent activism. So, cool. Let us know if you want to know any more inside information and what you got out of this video.
Cool.
See you next time.
See ya.